Nobody expected the courtroom to go that silent. Not after weeks of testimony, not after surveillance footage, not after prosecutors spent days painting a picture so brutal it sounded like something out of a movie. But the moment those 4 words echoed across that Tampa courtroom, guilty on all counts, everything changed. And then all eyes turned to one person. Sandria's Mays. Foolio's mother had been sitting there quietly the entire trial. No outbursts. No cameras. No dramatic scenes. Just watching. Listening. Waiting. For nearly 2 years, she carried the pain of losing her son on what was supposed to be the happiest weekend of his life. A birthday trip turned into a nightmare that shocked the entire rap world. But according to people inside that courtroom, the moment the verdict was read, something happened that nobody was prepared for. One of the defendants reportedly dropped his head instantly. Another looked completely frozen. And then Foolio's mother allegedly whispered something under her breath that now has social media going crazy. Some people claim she said, "I told you all, God don't sleep." Others swear she looked directly toward the defense table before quietly wiping tears from her face. And now the internet is completely divided. Because while some people are calling this justice, others are saying this verdict just opened an even darker chapter in Jacksonville's deadliest rap war. Behind the scenes, rumors are already spreading that more names could be connected, more arrests could happen, and leaked messages allegedly tied to the case may expose things the jury never got to hear. But before we get into the courtroom reaction that has everybody talking, you need to understand how this entire situation spiraled into one of the most shocking rap murder trials Florida has ever seen. Before he became one of the most controversial names in drill rap, before the diss tracks, the police investigations, the viral interviews, and the non-stop internet drama, Julio Foolio was just Charles Jones, a kid growing up in Jacksonville surrounded by violence most people could never imagine. And according to people close to him, that environment changed him early. See, what made Foolio different wasn't just the music. It was the fact that people genuinely believed every word he rapped about. The pain sounded real because it was real. Friends dying. Shootings. Retaliation. Constant paranoia. By the time he reached his early 20s, he had already survived situations that would mentally destroy most people. That's why his fans connected to him so deeply. But that same authenticity also made him dangerous in the eyes of his enemies. Because while mainstream audiences saw entertainment, the streets allegedly saw disrespect. And that's where things started getting ugly. Jacksonville's rap scene had already been boiling with tension for years. Different crews were going back and forth online almost daily. Diss tracks turned into real-life funerals. Instagram lives became evidence. Songs became threats. And every time somebody died, the internet would explode with theories, sneak disses, and accusations. But according to investigators, the beef surrounding Foolio eventually crossed a line that nobody could pull back from. Especially after several viral songs made national headlines. Fans still remember when rival artists began dropping tracks openly mocking dead enemies. The disrespect became so public that even people outside Florida started paying attention. Millions of views. Millions of comments. Millions of people watching a real street war unfold like reality television. And the craziest part? Most people never believed it would actually end in a federal-style murder investigation. But behind the music videos and trolling, prosecutors later claimed something much darker was happening in the background. They argued that multiple groups were allegedly monitoring each other non-stop through Instagram stories, location tags, live streams, club appearances, party flyers, and mutual associates. Basically, social media had become a tracking device. And Foolio was one of the biggest targets. According to insiders, there were already whispers months before his death that people were allegedly watching his every move online. Some fans even warned him publicly to stop posting his location so often. But Foolio kept moving the same way. Fearless. Or maybe reckless. Depends who you ask. Then came June 2024. The month everything changed forever. Foolio announced online that he would be heading to Tampa for his birthday celebration. At first, it looked normal. Artists travel constantly. Club appearances happen every weekend. Fans flooded his comments wishing him a happy birthday. Nobody knew prosecutors would later claim those exact posts helped set the murder plot into motion. According to courtroom testimony, investigators believe certain people began coordinating almost immediately after those birthday flyers hit Instagram. And this is where the story starts feeling terrifying. Because authorities later argued this wasn't random violence. This wasn't some accidental confrontation outside a club. This was allegedly planned. Step by step. Move by move. The prosecution claimed multiple suspects traveled from Jacksonville to Tampa together the day before the shooting. Surveillance footage allegedly showed cars following Foolio across the city throughout the night as he moved between clubs, parties, and after-hours locations. At first, nobody noticed. Why would they? Tampa nightlife was packed that weekend. Cars everywhere. Cameras everywhere. Music everywhere. But prosecutors later pieced together what they described as a coordinated tracking operation. And once the public heard those details during trial, people were horrified. Especially when footage reportedly showed suspects following Foolio from location to location while he continued posting online in real time. That detail alone changed the internet conversation completely. Because suddenly fans started asking, did social media get him killed? That debate exploded everywhere. Some people blamed the streets. Others blamed rap culture. Others blamed the constant online trolling between rival crews. But no matter who people blamed, everybody agreed on one thing. The ending was tragic. Things reportedly escalated after Foolio and his crew left one location and ended up at a hotel near the University of South Florida during the early morning hours. That's when prosecutors say the ambush happened. Gunfire erupted in the parking lot. Chaos everywhere. People screaming. Cars trying to escape. And according to investigators, multiple shooters allegedly opened fire with terrifying precision. By the time police arrived, Foolio was dead. The news spread across social media within minutes. At first, fans didn't believe it. People thought it was another rumor. Another fake death post. Another clout-chasing hoax. Until major pages started confirming it. Then came the videos. Then the police statements. Then the surveillance details. And suddenly the entire rap world froze. Because this wasn't just another rapper dying. This was one of the most infamous figures in Jacksonville's drill scene getting killed on his birthday weekend after posting his locations online all night. The symbolism alone made the story go mega viral. And while the internet turned the situation into debates, memes, conspiracy theories, and non-stop reactions, one person stayed almost completely silent. His mother. Sandria's Mays. According to people close to the family, she was devastated behind the scenes. But publicly, she stayed composed. No reckless interviews. No disrespectful online behavior. No internet theatrics. Just grief. Real grief. And people started respecting her for that. Meanwhile, investigators quietly started building their case. Phone records. Cell tower data. Surveillance footage. Hotel cameras. Social media posts. Witness statements. Vehicle tracking. Even footage from a Tesla camera reportedly became part of the investigation. And once arrests started happening, the entire situation became even more shocking. Because authorities weren't describing this as a spontaneous shooting anymore. They were calling it a coordinated murder operation. That wording terrified people. Especially once prosecutors started mentioning gang connections, organized surveillance, modified weapons, and conspiracy charges. Suddenly this wasn't rap gossip anymore. This was a capital murder case. And from that moment on, everybody knew the trial was going to be explosive. But what nobody expected was how emotional things would become once Foolio's mother finally came face to face with the men accused of taking her son away forever. And according to people inside that courtroom, some of the reactions were impossible to forget. The moment prosecutors started showing the surveillance footage in court, the atmosphere reportedly changed instantly. People inside the courtroom said you could actually feel the tension. Because this wasn't blurry internet gossip anymore. This was real footage. Real timestamps. Real movements. And according to investigators, it allegedly showed the final hours leading up to Foolio's death almost minute by minute. That's when the prosecution dropped the narrative that shook the entire courtroom. They claimed Foolio wasn't randomly found that night. He was allegedly hunted. And once jurors heard how coordinated everything supposedly was, social media exploded with reactions calling it a movie-level setup. According to testimony, 2 separate vehicles were allegedly moving through Tampa tracking Foolio's locations throughout the night. Prosecutors argued that as Foolio bounced between clubs and parties celebrating his birthday, certain suspects were allegedly communicating constantly behind the scenes. And then came the phone evidence. Jurors reportedly saw text messages, location data, and movement timelines laid out one after another. The prosecution's goal was simple. Make the jury believe this was premeditated from the very beginning. Not random. Not emotional. Planned. And the scary part? Some of the evidence allegedly made it look believable. At one point during trial, prosecutors reportedly described how social media posts may have acted like live GPS updates. That detail hit people hard online. Fans immediately began reposting old clips of rappers showing their locations in real time. Some even called the Foolio case the first Instagram-assisted rap murder trial. The internet went insane. But inside the courtroom, things were getting even darker. Because prosecutors then showed footage allegedly capturing suspects following Foolio's movements across multiple locations that night. Club after club. Parking lot after parking lot. Street after street. And according to courtroom observers, one juror reportedly looked visibly disturbed while watching the timeline unfold. But then came the detail that really shook people. Authorities claim some of the weapons involved may have been modified specifically to reduce shell casing evidence at the scene. The courtroom reportedly went completely silent. Because suddenly the prosecution's theory sounded even more calculated than people imagined. Not only were they alleging coordination, they were alleging preparation. Advanced preparation. That's when the defense started fighting back aggressively. Attorneys for the accused argued prosecutors were building a dramatic story out of mostly circumstantial evidence. They questioned phone records. They questioned gang allegations. They questioned witness interpretations. One lawyer reportedly argued, "Being in Tampa is not a crime." Another allegedly pushed back hard against the prosecution's gang narrative, claiming the state was unfairly turning rap culture into criminal evidence. And honestly, that argument started a huge debate online. Because social media instantly split into 2 sides. One side said, "These were drill rappers bragging online and the evidence speaks for itself." The other side argued, "The state is criminalizing music and internet trolling." The debate got heated. Especially after prosecutors allegedly introduced rap videos and Instagram posts during trial. That decision alone sent shockwaves through hip-hop culture. Fans started asking, can lyrics really be used against artists in court? But while the internet argued about rap music, the courtroom drama became even more intense. Because according to multiple reports, one of the defendants allegedly smirked during opening statements while prosecutors discussed Foolio's death. That moment instantly went viral. People watching the law stream online flooded comment sections with anger. "How are you laughing during a murder trial? He thinks this is funny?" That jury definitely saw that. And according to courtroom watchers, the reaction from Foolio's mother at that moment was heartbreaking. She reportedly stayed silent, but looked visibly emotional hearing details about her son's final moments while one of the accused appeared completely unfazed. That image spread everywhere online. And suddenly public opinion started turning hard against the defendants. But then came another shocking courtroom moment nobody expected. One defendant was reportedly caught on surveillance footage inside an interrogation room attempting to climb through ceiling tiles. That revelation instantly became internet fuel. People started calling it the guilty escape attempt. Memes exploded everywhere. Reaction channels covered it non-stop. And prosecutors quietly benefited from every bit of bad publicity. Because even though jurors weren't supposed to be influenced by social media, the public narrative surrounding the case was becoming brutal. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, rumors started spreading that the state might seek the death penalty if convictions happened. That rumor changed everything. Because now this wasn't just about prison anymore. This became life or death. And according to insiders, tension inside the courtroom reportedly became unbearable as the trial continued. Then prosecutors dropped what many considered their strongest evidence of all: the timeline. Step by step, they allegedly reconstructed the suspect's movements from Jacksonville to Tampa. The state argued the trip was coordinated. Vehicles were tracked. Surveillance matched movement patterns. Suspects followed Foolio's locations. And shooters allegedly waited for the perfect opportunity. By the time prosecutors finished laying everything out, people online started saying the case looked impossible to beat. But the defense still had one major counterattack. They argued the state's case relied too heavily on interpretation. Cell towers aren't perfect. Social media posts don't prove murder. Lyrics aren't confessions. And surveillance footage doesn't always clearly identify faces. Honestly, some legal analysts even admitted parts of the defense argument sounded reasonable. For a moment, people genuinely wondered if at least one defendant could walk free. And that's when the first massive twist happened. Because during deliberations, rumors allegedly started leaking online that the jury was deeply divided. Twitter exploded instantly. Some posts claimed jurors were struggling with the conspiracy charges. Others claimed one defendant might beat the murder count entirely. YouTube channels started going live non-stop discussing possible mistrials. The tension became insane. Especially for Foolio's mother. Imagine sitting there after nearly 2 years of grief, wondering if the people accused of killing your son might actually walk free. People close to the family later claimed those final hours before the verdict were emotionally devastating. But then, everything changed. After roughly 8 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. And according to courtroom witnesses, the atmosphere immediately felt heavy. One by one, the defendants stood. One by one, the verdicts were read. Guilty. Then again. Guilty. Then again. Guilty. And again. Guilty. 4 times. The courtroom reportedly froze. Some people began crying instantly. One defendant allegedly dropped his head. Another reportedly looked completely stunned. And then came the moment everybody online started talking about. According to multiple people inside the courtroom, Foolio's mother quietly broke down in tears after hearing the verdicts. Not screaming. Not celebrating. Just crying silently while clutching herself emotionally. That image alone went viral across social media within hours. Because suddenly the entire case stopped feeling like internet entertainment. It became painfully real. A mother lost her son forever. And now 4 men had officially been convicted for his murder. But just when people thought the story was finally ending, the prosecution revealed something even darker. The death penalty phase was next. The same jurors who just convicted the defendants would now help decide whether they spend life in prison or face execution. And once that news hit social media, the internet completely exploded again. The moment the words, death penalty phase, started trending online, the entire energy surrounding the case changed overnight. This wasn't just another rapper murder trial anymore. This became one of the most talked about death penalty cases in hip-hop culture. And suddenly, everybody had an opinion. Some people believed the verdict was justice for Foolio. Others believed prosecutors were trying to make an example out of Jacksonville's drill scene. But behind the scenes, something even more explosive was allegedly happening. Because according to rumors spreading online after the guilty verdicts, investigators may have uncovered additional digital evidence that never made it fully into public discussion during the trial. And once those rumors started circulating, conspiracy theories went absolutely insane. Some people claimed unreleased text messages existed. Others claimed there were additional names investigators quietly looked into. One viral post even alleged that certain people connected to the case allegedly panicked after hearing the convictions because they feared future indictments. Now, was any of that officially confirmed? No. But that didn't stop social media from spiraling completely out of control. TikTok creators started posting breakdown videos frame by frame. YouTube live streams went for hours discussing hidden details from the case. Twitter Spaces turned into screaming matches. And meanwhile, Foolio's mother stayed mostly silent publicly, which somehow made people pay even more attention to every tiny reaction she gave. Then came the courtroom moment that reportedly shook everyone emotionally. During post-verdict proceedings, observers claimed one defendant appeared visibly emotional after hearing discussion about the potential punishments ahead. Gone was the confidence people thought they saw earlier in trial. Gone were the smirks. Gone was the tough guy energy. Reality had finally arrived. And according to several people watching inside the courtroom, that emotional shift hit Foolio's mother hard. Because for the first time since her son's death, the people accused of taking his life allegedly looked afraid too. That detail spread online fast. One viral comment with thousands of likes read, "They laughed when trial started, now nobody laughing." Another said, "His mom stayed stronger than all of them." The internet was brutal. But then things got even crazier. Because several rap bloggers and internet personalities suddenly began revisiting old Foolio interviews, old Instagram lives, and old diss tracks searching for hidden clues people previously ignored. And some clips started going mega viral again. Especially moments where Foolio talked about enemies watching him, moving carefully, betrayal, and feeling targeted. Fans started calling the clips haunting. One old live stream in particular exploded online after viewers claimed Foolio looked genuinely paranoid while discussing people tracking locations online. Suddenly everybody started saying he knew. Whether that was true or not didn't even matter anymore. The internet had already created its narrative. And then came another major twist. According to online reports, several legal analysts began openly debating whether the prosecution's use of rap lyrics and music videos could eventually influence future cases nationwide. That conversation became huge. Because this case wasn't just about murder anymore. It became part of a larger debate surrounding drill music, online taunting, rap lyrics in court, gang culture, and social media evidence. Some artists and activists reportedly criticized prosecutors for using music as evidence. Others argued the lyrics matched real-life violence too closely to ignore. The hip-hop world became completely divided. And while all this chaos unfolded online, the prosecution quietly prepared for the penalty phase. That's when another shocking detail surfaced. Under Florida law, the defendants didn't necessarily need a unanimous jury recommendation to receive the death penalty. That revelation horrified people online. Suddenly everybody started realizing how serious the situation truly was. This wasn't hypothetical anymore. Execution was a real possibility. And according to courtroom insiders, tension among the defendants reportedly became extremely noticeable after those discussions intensified. Some observers even claimed family members of the accused looked emotionally devastated entering and leaving court. That added another emotional layer to the case. Because now social media wasn't just discussing Foolio's family anymore. People started discussing the families of the defendants too. Mothers, siblings, children. Entire lives potentially destroyed on both sides. For a brief moment, the internet conversation became less toxic and more emotional. But that peace didn't last long. Because then a fresh wave of online drama erupted after several pages reposted celebratory social media content allegedly tied to one of the defendants after Foolio's death. The backlash was immediate. People flooded comment sections calling the posts evil, cold, and heartless. Some users even argued those posts may have psychologically damaged the defense's image in the eyes of the public before verdicts were ever reached. And honestly, many legal commentators agreed. Because perception matters, especially in high-profile cases. Then came the revelation that really sent chills through people watching the story unfold. Prosecutors allegedly argued the attack showed signs of extensive planning. Multiple vehicles, coordinated movement, tracking behavior, waiting positions, weapon preparation. When all those details were repeated together during recap coverage online, people started describing the murder as military style. That wording instantly spread everywhere. And suddenly the public conversation shifted from rap beef to organized hit. That shift made the case feel even darker. Especially when old surveillance footage screenshots started circulating online again showing the final moments before gunfire erupted. People became obsessed with analyzing every frame, every car, every timestamp, every movement. It turned into a full internet obsession. Meanwhile, sources close to the courtroom claimed Foolio's mother continued attending proceedings quietly despite the emotional toll. And according to observers, many people in court began respecting her composure more and more as trial coverage intensified. Because despite everything, the headlines, the viral debates, the gang allegations, the music discussions, the online chaos, she never turned the situation into a circus. That restraint stood out, especially in today's social media era. But just when it seemed like the case couldn't get any heavier, another cliffhanger emerged. Several online accounts suddenly started speculating that at least one defendant could attempt an appeal based on how rap lyrics and social media evidence were handled during trial. That possibility instantly reopened the controversy. Because now people started asking, is this really over? What if convictions get challenged later? Could another trial happen? Did prosecutors push too far? The questions exploded everywhere. And while the internet argued non-stop, one reality remained impossible to ignore. For men had now officially been convicted in the murder of Julio Foolio. His mother had finally watched the jury deliver justice after nearly 2 years of waiting. But the biggest question of all still hadn't been answered. Would the state of Florida stop at life sentences? Or would prosecutors push to make sure these men never walked the earth again? The internet completely erupted after the guilty verdicts. Within minutes of the courtroom announcement, clips, reactions, hashtags, and conspiracy theories flooded every platform imaginable. TikTok timelines turned into non-stop breakdown videos. Twitter became a battlefield. YouTube live streams started pulling thousands of viewers instantly. And at the center of it all was one image people could not stop talking about. Sandria's Mays sitting quietly in that courtroom after hearing the men accused of killing her son found guilty on all counts. That image alone triggered millions of emotional reactions online. Some users called her the strongest mother in hip-hop. Others said watching her remain composed through the entire trial was more painful than the actual verdict itself. One viral post with over 100,000 likes read, "She waited 2 years for this moment and never lost faith." Another user wrote, "You can tell she carried pain every single day." But while many people celebrated the verdict as justice for Julio Foolio, others immediately warned that the situation could make tensions in Jacksonville even worse. And that fear spread fast. Because anybody familiar with the history surrounding Foolio already knew this case was tied to years of violent rap beefs, online trolling, and deadly street politics. That's why some fans started posting messages like, "This isn't over. Watch what happens next. The street's gonna react." Those comments instantly scared people. Especially after several rap bloggers began reporting rumors that rival crews were allegedly reacting emotionally behind the scenes after the convictions. Now none of those rumors were officially confirmed. But in today's internet culture, rumors spread faster than facts. And once the speculation started, social media went into full chaos mode. Then came the celebrity reactions. Several hip-hop personalities subtly referenced the case online without directly naming it. Some posted cryptic tweets about karma. Others warned young rappers about posting locations online. One rapper reportedly wrote, "The internet is the police now." That line went viral immediately. Because honestly, that was one of the biggest takeaways from the entire trial. Investigators allegedly used Instagram stories, live videos, text messages, surveillance cameras, location tracking, and online posts to help build the case. People started realizing that social media had become dangerous in ways most artists never imagined. And suddenly old videos of rappers flashing locations online started resurfacing everywhere. Fans began creating compilations titled, "Rappers Need to Stop Posting Their Location." The Foolio case changed everything. Instagram is getting people killed. The fear online felt real. Meanwhile, legal analysts and podcast personalities started debating whether prosecutors crossed a line by using rap lyrics and music videos during trial. That debate got extremely heated. Some people argued drill music reflects real-life violence and should absolutely be considered evidence if it connects to crimes. Others believed artists were being unfairly criminalized for entertainment and exaggerated lyrics. The hip-hop community became deeply divided. One side said, the lyrics matched the violence. The other side argued, if country singers rap about murder, nobody arrests them. That argument exploded across Twitter for days. But then the conversation shifted again after clips from inside the courtroom started circulating online. Particularly the reports about one defendant allegedly smirking earlier in the trial before later appearing emotional after the guilty verdicts. The internet was ruthless about it. People reposted side-by-side comparisons non-stop. One viral caption read, "That smile disappeared quick." Another said, "They thought this was entertainment until reality hit." The memes were everywhere. But underneath the jokes, many people admitted the entire situation felt deeply tragic. Because no matter what side people supported, multiple families were destroyed forever. And for some older hip-hop fans, the case became symbolic of something much bigger. They started comparing the current drill era to earlier rap generations, arguing social media had turned rap beef into non-stop public warfare. Back in the day, artists could avoid each other. Now everybody tracks everybody online. That realization made the Foolio case feel terrifyingly modern. Even mainstream news outlets reportedly started discussing how online behavior played a major role in the investigation. And once that narrative hit television audiences, the case reached an entirely different level of national attention. Suddenly this wasn't just a rap story anymore. It became a social media story, a gang violence story, a legal system story, and a warning story. All at the same time. But perhaps the most emotional reactions came from people revisiting Foolio's old interviews after the verdicts. Fans reposted clips where he talked about survival, enemies, betrayal, and feeling constantly targeted. One particular video reportedly spread everywhere because viewers believed Foolio sounded exhausted mentally while discussing violence around him. People flooded the comments saying, "He knew his life was in danger. This hits different now. That man was crying for help in plain sight." Whether that interpretation was true or not, emotionally, it hit audiences hard. And while the internet continued spiraling, the legal reality became more terrifying by the hour. Because now everyone was waiting for the same thing. The death penalty decision. Would prosecutors actually push for execution? Would jurors recommend life instead? Would anybody break emotionally during sentencing? Would more secrets come out? Nobody knew. And that uncertainty created another massive wave of attention around the case. By this point, millions of people were emotionally invested. Not because they personally knew Foolio, but because the entire story felt like watching the collision of rap culture, internet fame, violence, clout, social media, and real-life consequences all explode at once. And just when people thought they had finally seen the worst parts of this story, a new rumor suddenly started spreading online that could change everything again. Just when people thought the story was finally reaching its end, the internet found a brand new reason to spiral out of control. Because only hours after the guilty verdicts dominated headlines, rumors suddenly started spreading online that investigators may still be looking deeper into connections surrounding the murder of Julio Foolio. And once those rumors hit social media, everything exploded again. Nobody knew what was real anymore. Some accounts claimed additional digital evidence allegedly existed that never became public during trial. Others claimed prosecutors intentionally held certain information back because future legal action might still be possible. Then came the wildest rumor of all. Several viral posts began suggesting that people connected to Jacksonville's rap scene were allegedly panicking behind the scenes after seeing how aggressively prosecutors built this case. Suddenly everyone started asking the same terrifying question. Who's next? That question spread across TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube almost instantly. Because this case already shocked people by showing just how much evidence investigators can allegedly pull from social media, location data, surveillance systems, text messages, and online behavior. And now artists everywhere were realizing something terrifying. The internet never forgets. Every post, every caption, every live stream, every location tag, every deleted story. People started saying the Foolio case may have permanently changed how rappers move online forever. But behind all the internet chaos, something much more emotional was reportedly happening quietly inside the courtroom. According to observers, Foolio's mother appeared emotionally drained after days of hearing graphic details about her son's murder, yet she still reportedly remained composed throughout proceedings. That detail hit social media hard. Because by now, millions of people had emotionally attached themselves to her journey. Not the internet drama. Not the rap beef. Her. People began calling her the strongest person in the courtroom, the real face of this tragedy, and the only person who handled this with dignity. And honestly, even some people who originally followed the story for entertainment admitted the trial forced them to see things differently. Because beneath all the viral headlines was a woman who lost her child forever. That reality became impossible to ignore. But then another shocking twist entered the conversation. Several legal commentators reportedly began discussing whether the guilty verdicts themselves could eventually become part of future rap-related prosecutions nationwide. That idea stunned people. Because suddenly this wasn't just a Florida story anymore. The case had become a blueprint. A blueprint showing how prosecutors might use rap lyrics, online beef, Instagram activity, music videos, and digital footprints inside modern murder trials. And once that realization hit the hip-hop community, fear started spreading fast. Some artists reportedly deleted old posts. Fans noticed certain rappers suddenly stopped sharing locations online. Others allegedly archived controversial content completely. People genuinely started acting different after watching this case unfold. And then came the most chilling realization of all. According to multiple online discussions, prosecutors allegedly argued this murder may never have happened if social media locations had not been publicly shared throughout the night. That detail haunted people, because it made the entire situation feel preventable. One decision, one Instagram post, one location tag, and a birthday celebration allegedly turned into a coordinated ambush. That narrative became emotionally devastating online. Especially once old clips resurfaced showing Foolio smiling, celebrating, and enjoying his birthday hours before the shooting. Those videos suddenly felt eerie. Almost impossible to watch. Fans flooded comment sections with crying emojis and messages saying, "He had no idea. This is heartbreaking." That energy changed forever. But while social media mourned, another reality was approaching quickly: the sentencing phase. And according to insiders, prosecutors were expected to push aggressively during penalty arguments by emphasizing premeditation, coordination, gang-related violence, multiple shooters, and public danger, meaning the possibility of death sentences remained very real. That possibility changed the emotional atmosphere surrounding the entire case again. Because now people weren't just talking about justice anymore. They were talking about execution. And social media became deeply divided over it. Some users argued, "They deserve whatever happens." Others said, "Life in prison is enough." Meanwhile, conspiracy theories continued spreading non-stop. One viral rumor even claimed additional sealed evidence existed involving communications after the shooting. Again, none of that was confirmed publicly. But at this point, the internet barely cared about facts anymore. The story had taken on a life of its own. And perhaps the darkest part of all? Many people online started worrying this case wouldn't end the violence, but potentially inspire more retaliation in the future. That fear kept appearing everywhere. Because history had already shown how deadly these rap conflicts could become once emotions escalated publicly online. And now millions of people were watching every reaction carefully. Every post, every lyric, every live stream, every deleted comment, searching for signs of what might happen next. Which brings us back to the image nobody can stop thinking about. Sandria's Mays sitting quietly inside that courtroom after finally hearing the word guilty repeated for separate times. For nearly 2 years, she waited for accountability. Now she has it. But even after the verdicts, even after the convictions, even after the entire internet exploded in reaction, one question still hangs over this story like a dark cloud. Did the guilty verdicts finally end this deadly chapter? Or was this only the beginning of something even bigger? And honestly, this whole case still doesn't feel real. A birthday trip turned into one of the biggest rap murder trials the internet has seen in years. Foolio went from celebrating with friends to becoming the center of a courtroom battle that now has 4 men facing the possibility of spending the rest of their lives behind bars, or even worse. But through all the chaos, all the headlines, all the conspiracy theories, one image still stands above everything else. Sandria's Mays waiting nearly 2 years to finally hear those guilty verdicts. That moment changed everything. Now the entire internet is asking, was this true justice? Or is the story far from over? Because let's be real, this case opened some terrifying conversations about rap culture, social media, online beef, location posting, and how the internet may have completely changed street politics forever. One Instagram story allegedly helped create a deadly chain reaction. That's scary. And now millions of people are watching closely to see what happens next during sentencing. Do you think the defendants should get the death penalty? Or should they spend life in prison instead? And here's another question nobody can stop debating. Did social media play the biggest role in this entire tragedy? I want to hear your honest thoughts down in the comments because this case has the whole internet divided right now. Also, don't forget to subscribe because this story may not be over yet. More courtroom developments could still happen. More reactions could surface. More shocking details could leak at any moment. And if anything major breaks, you already know we're covering all of it here with full details, full breakdowns, and no filter. Hit the like button if you made it all the way to the end. Turn on notifications. And stay locked in, because the next update in this story could change everything again.